Today's video is sponsored by Squarespace. Got a lot of questions you guys sent in on Instagram all about my book Friend of Mine, which is currently in production, and I've also got an update on that production and sort of the timeline of the book. If you pre-ordered it, you should have gotten an email update last week telling you all about where it's at in production, what the timeline looks like, but just in case, and basically just so everyone is on the same page, I'm also going to share that entire update at the end of this video. But let's not waste any time, let's jump right into your questions. What was your process for deciding on final images? What got chopped versus what stayed in? Emotional attachments to images, gut feeling, technical? I guess that might have turned into 2 to 3 questions. No worries. I think I was just trying to cover a lot of ground in terms of like the actual geographical ground in Chillicothe without having like too many repeats. I really wanted to build this narrative as if you were just kind of roaming around Chillicothe. So driving down back roads, going into town, stopping, taking a walk, stopping for coffee, going and exploring some more, really just trying to build that atmosphere and try to show people like what it was I thought of when I thought of home, like what I thought of when I thought of Chillicothe, at least especially in that time frame from 2013 to 2014. For the most part, it was all pretty much just a gut feeling, and it really revolved around that like atmosphere, that kind of feeling I had about Chillicothe, but there were definitely photos I made around that time that for whatever reason on a technical level, they just didn't work. Whether it be the composition, the exposure, the light that was in that scene at that given time, things didn't line up. What helped you decide to make a book versus a zine? I really wanted to throw a lot at this project in order to do it justice, at least for me specifically. This project means so much to me, and it's given me a number of opportunities that have basically put me where I am today, and I felt like I needed to kind of honor that. With a zine, it's going to be much more affordable, but at the cost of that, you're also limiting some of the options you have, and that was like what was most important to me for this one. I really wanted a hardcover because I wanted something that just felt substantial, that felt durable. I wanted offset duotone printing because I wanted something really good. With the first edition, it was with a really low-cost print-on-demand service, and there was no quality control there, so as a result of that, it just wasn't printed well. That has haunted me for the last 6 years, and I just told myself, if I'm going to do this one last run and this one last edition of this book, I'm going to throw everything at it, and I'm going to make a really good book. What's one mistake you've changed from the first version to the newest? Aside from the print quality difference, I think the biggest mistake or just revision that I've made has been in the work itself. How I'm sequencing the photos is entirely different. In the first edition, there are photos that are in completely opposite ends of the book, and now I've got them side by side. I'm seeing photos that pair together that didn't really occur to me before, and I've also got plenty of photos that were in the first edition that I've completely removed, and there are other photos that are in the second edition that didn't even make it into the cut or even considered in the first edition. My eye and my tastes have changed so much since 2014, and I think they've just inevitably matured a little bit as I've gotten older. I've made more photos, I've studied a lot more photo books and other photographers. This just feels more like the book that I was really trying to make in 2014, but I just didn't have the tools or even just the eye for it. I'm very interested in this style of photography, but many times I struggle to understand what is the subject. I feel that the point of the photo is too deep for my simple mind. I'm right there with you. This is where I think books and zines really come into play, and like where the strength is in having a number of photos as opposed to just one, because I so often find myself trying to have everything be in one single photo and to have one photo entirely stand on its own and it doesn't need anything else. And some photos that is the case, but a lot of the times it isn't. Sometimes I think you're building a subject across several images, and the actual subject, what it is you're trying to show, it might not actually be visible in any of the photos, but there are these different elements that you're pulling in from each photo, and as a whole, that's your subject itself. How you pair the photos, how you sequence them, what's your starting point, what's your end point, what's everything in between, that to me is like how you build a subject or a story that you can't really always do in just one single frame. When you initially released this project, at what point did you know that the project was complete? Well, I definitely thought it was complete at one point, which it definitely wasn't, but I think at that point, I just felt like I can't look at these photos any longer. I don't know what else I have to say. I need to put these out there. I need to be done with it. I think I felt like I had said everything I wanted to say, but now with the second edition, the changes that I've made, now it just feels like I'm saying things a bit more clearly than I did in 2014. Did you have a photo you really wanted to include, but it didn't fit the flow of the book? There were plenty of photos I made that just didn't make the cut and they just didn't fit in. And at the time when I was shooting the photos, maybe it felt like this was like essential, and it felt like it was just, you know, a continuation of the project, and it felt like it was going to fit. But then you put everything out in front of you and see all of the photos next to each other, and some photos just stick out like a sore thumb. You know, they just clearly don't belong. And that could be a number of different things. It could be the tonality of the photo might just not fit with everything else. It could be the subject matter itself. I don't have a ton off the top of my head. I'm sure I'll include some here in the video just to show you some of the photos that didn't make the cut. One in particular that really sticks out in my head is this photo of this guy sitting on a bench. He just had this cool hat and cigar in his mouth and glasses, and as I was approaching him walking down the sidewalk, I was like, oh, that's perfect. He's this guy, he's got this cool character to him, that'll just fit perfectly. So as I walked by, I basically just zone focused, shot from the hip. Even when I got the photo, I was excited about it, but in hindsight, it just doesn't add anything to this project. It doesn't add anything to the story. It just doesn't really fit. I think it was just me being young and naive and just trying to do my best impression of street photography. And street photographer, I am not. What made you want to do a second and final edition of the book? Well, the reason I wanted to make a second edition was to just essentially right all of my wrongs from the first edition. And it's the final edition because I feel like I just need to let these photos go. Maybe someday I'll like revisit this and shoot sort of a follow-up book to this one, but right now I just need to let the photos go and move on to something else. I've got 3 other projects I'm currently working on, one of which it's not safe for me to go into other people's houses right now with everything going on, so that project is kind of on hold. I've got another project which I've completely shot everything for. Now it's just basically putting all of the pieces together and kind of figuring it out. And then the other project, I'm ready to get started pretty much any day now. So I have a lot of other things I want to do, but I knew that revisiting this project and essentially taking care of all of the issues I had with the first edition, that to me was like my #1 priority. So after this, I can move on. Thank you guys all for sending in those questions. I hope that gave you a little bit more insight into the book itself, whether it be from shooting the book or actually putting things together and revisiting it after 6 years. Before I give you guys the big update on kind of like the timeline of the book and when things are going to be shipping and all of that, I'm going to go ahead and take a second, pay some bills, and thank our sponsor today, which is Squarespace. Squarespace truly is the best all-in-one platform to building a website. I've been using their service for years, way before they ever sponsored my channel, because they really are just that good. Literally anything you would need on your website, you can do it with Squarespace. Everything from building a portfolio, running a blog, having an online store, whether it be digital or physical products, or email newsletters like I just did with my book update. That was something entirely new to me, but it took me no time at all to get it figured out and sent out, so that was crucial. All of their templates are super easy to customize, so you're not just running the same exact template as everybody else. You can fully dial things in to actually fit your own style. And if you ever need help or have questions about anything, they have 24/7 award-winning customer service. If you want to try Squarespace out for your own website, you can do so entirely free at squarespace.com. But before you get signed up, make sure you go to squarespace.com/mattday, and that'll get you 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Okay, so this book update, let's get into it. Again, if you pre-ordered the book, you should have already gotten an email with all of this information, but in case you didn't, and just so everyone is on the same page, let's dive in. Since the pre-order closed, myself and Kevin O'Meara, a good friend of mine, and the person who I've hired to kind of help me with this project and make sure everything is good to go, we've been working on this very, very meticulously, really just ironing out every single little detail to make sure that when you get this book, it is 100% complete and we are happy with it. Everything from the sequencing to the cover image to the actual processing of the files themselves and making sure every photo looks really good, that the tonality across the entire book is consistent. Every little detail we've wanted to make sure is completely ironed out. After that, Kevin, who is in Minneapolis, made a bunch of match prints, basically prints that we can give to the printers to say, this is exactly what we want the book to look like, make it look like this. This part of the process was really awesome because Kevin made all of these prints, made the adjustments that he found necessary based on what I had given him and kind of told him how I wanted them to look. And then he overnighted a box of those prints to me and I signed off on every single page, basically giving them the green light. Like, this looks good to me. I'm totally good with the book looking like this. So I signed every copy and then overnighted it back to Kevin, which he then delivered to Bookmobile, which is who the book is printing through. Bookmobile is located in Minneapolis, but the actual place where the book is being printed is actually in Canada. So we're kind of all over over the place here. Unfortunately, I was really hoping I could actually travel there and, shoot some behind the scenes of the book being printed, but obviously with everything going on, that's not going to happen. And on top of that, we're also looking at sort of a delay in the production time. Because of all the guidelines and things being backed up a little bit, we're now looking at mid-January to mid-February for when the books are actually going to be delivered to us, which is really unfortunate. That's obviously not what we had in mind and what we were hoping for, but given the current state of things, it is what it is. We don't really have any control over that. The last thing we would want is to rush things and jeopardize the quality of the book or just the safety of everybody. Now, when the book is completely finished and delivered, it's going to be delivered in Minneapolis, and right now, the goal is for me to travel to Minneapolis. My plan is to drive there and sign every single copy of the book, which with a run of 1,750 books, it is going to take me quite some time to sign every single copy. So that's also going to add a few days onto the timeline. But I really wanted to make sure I could sign every book just to basically say thank you to everybody and make sure that if you bought a copy of the book, it will be signed. Obviously, with everything going on right now, we don't know exactly what it's going to look like in 4 to 8 weeks, whether or not I'll be able to travel and sign every book. If for any reason we can't do that, or if it really doesn't look safe for me to do that, we're going to go with some sort of way for me to sign and insert cards into every book, basically just certifying the book and basically just, again, saying thank you. Really hoping I can travel there to sign every book, but time will tell. Again, safety is the most important thing. Now, after everything has been signed and packaged up, they'll be shipping directly out of Minneapolis, all of the pre-orders anyway. We're still not sure if the rest of the books are actually going to come back to Ohio with me, or if we're going to store them somewhere in Minneapolis and Kevin's going to basically take on all of the shipping himself. We're still ironing out all of those details, but at the very least, all of the pre-orders will be shipped immediately after they've been signed and packaged up directly out of Minneapolis. Now from there, probably when we ship the pre-orders or when the pre-orders start to arrive, that's when I'm actually going to add the rest of the books that aren't sold. I'll add those to my website and those will go live, and I'll give everybody plenty of heads up in advance to let you know that the remaining books will be there available on my website. But again, once the book is done and all of the copies are bought and sold and shipped out, that is it. I'm not doing a second printing of the second edition or anything like that. It's one final edition of 1,750 books. After that, they're all gone. Again, I'm ready to just put this out there one last time and just move on. That said though, I can't explain how thankful I am for this project and the fact that I can make a book of this quality and of this size. I honestly wouldn't be able to do that without all of your support. So whether you pre-ordered a copy of the book, whether you've been watching, my channel for the last week or the last 6 years, I genuinely thank you so much. It's one of the most surreal things to read your messages and your comments and your emails every single day. And now to see this book, these photos of my hometown that mean so much to me going all over the world, it's mind-blowing. I do this because I genuinely love it, and I love the connection that I've made with so many of you guys out there. Really means a lot, so thank you. That's going to do it for this video though. There will be plenty more updates in your emails. Again, if you pre-ordered the book, I'm going to be continuously sending out update emails, basically making sure you guys are up to speed on where the book is in production, probably some behind the scenes photos or things like that. It'll just be a fun way for me to communicate directly with you guys. So again, thank you for that. If you have any questions about the book or pre-orders or anything else that we talked about in this video or any thoughts of your own, please leave them in the comments down below. That's it for today. I love you guys. I'll see you next time.